What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. The Red Sox offseason's almost done, if you think about it, right? Today marks the first day of March. Spring training is in full swing. You've got the World Baseball Classic coming up in the next couple of days here, and the Red Sox first regular season baseball game begins on March 30th. So I figured this would be the perfect time to kick off the real start of the baseball season, kind of, with grading what went down for the Red Sox this offseason. So what we're going to do today is we're going to dive into every single transaction, trade, free agent signing, mess up by this Red Sox team. We're going to grade it on a scale of F to A, and we're going to see how well or how poorly the Red Sox did this offseason truly and overall. But before we get into that, don't forget that with March also comes our first ever members only live stream, as well as our first series preview analysis. So if you'd like to join any of those, click the link in the description to become a member of this channel. Also, make sure you guys hit the subscribe and like button. We talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, we're going to start by going over what I'm calling the miscellaneous category, and there's really only one transaction within this category, and that is the extension of Rafael Devers. Rafael Devers was extended this offseason, for those of you who somehow forgot, for 10 years, $313.5 million. Now, this is an obvious victory, right? Having Rafael Devers on this team for 10 plus years is absolutely fantastic. He's one of the best hitters in baseball, one of the best personalities we've had on the Red Sox in a very long time, a leader, a passionate guy about baseball, all around just a fantastic person. The Red Sox finally spent money on a homegrown star. They finally ponied up and paid a homegrown talent, and that's a good thing as well. So I'm going to give this overall an A. Now, not an A plus, because I think that if the Red Sox had done this in 2019, 2020, or even 2021, they would have saved themselves a whole lot of money. They waited until really kind of the last possible second to extend him before he started thinking about free agency. So in my book, it could have gone a little bit better, but obviously it's fantastic having Rafael Devers on this team. Okay, now let's get into some of the trades that took place and what their grades look like. Over this offseason, the Red Sox made a few trades. None of them were super blockbusters or anything, but some of them were pretty solid. You had the Matt Barnes and cash considerations for Richard Blyer. You had Josh Taylor for Adalberto Mondesi and a player to be named later from the Kansas City Royals. You had Connor Siebold for a player to be named later or cash considerations to the Rockies. And finally, the only other one that I think is truly going to affect this 2023 Red Sox roster is Jacob Wallace going again to the Kansas City Royals in exchange for Wyatt Mills. Now, overall, like I said, there wasn't a big blockbuster trade, but I don't know if I fully hold that against the Boston Red Sox, because if you take a look at the rest of the league, there really weren't a ton of big time trades. There really weren't a ton of trades in general this offseason, at least in terms of big league talent. The only two big blockbuster trades was really a three-way trade that sent Sean Murphy to the Braves, and then Dalton Varsho going to the Toronto Blue Jays. Outside of that, a lot of the trades were pretty small. It was a very free agent heavy market this offseason, so I don't entirely put that on the Red Sox. I'm not going to knock points off of it for not making a huge blockbuster trade. In terms of the trades that they did make, the one I like the most is Adalberto Mondesi. Now, the reason for this is because Josh Taylor's a complete unknown, right? He did not pitch at all last year for the Red Sox and had a lot of problems trying to get healthy and stay healthy in the minor leagues last year, so he was absolutely unknown if he was even going to be ready to go this season. Getting Adalberto Mondesi, who in his own right is a complete unknown, but if you can get a fully season from Adalberto Mondesi, and by full healthy season, I'm talking 60, 70, 80 games, you are getting a depth piece on your bench that has elite speed, elite defense, and has a really high hit potential on the field. So in my opinion, the ceiling with Adalberto Mondesi is so high that you got to count that one as a win. The one that I'm kind of confused by, still a little bit to this day, was Matt Barnes for Richard Blyer. Now, the reason I was confused is because Matt Barnes finished the year in 2022 really strong, right? He had a bunch of really great outings in a row. It looked like he'd finally turned a corner back to what he looked like in the past, and he was going to be an asset for this 2023 bullpen. But at the same time too, if you take a look at the trade and where the Red Sox were at the time of the trade, they only had one lefty in the bullpen. Richard Blyer is a proven major league successful lefty. Bringing in a guy who is a proven veteran lefty into this bullpen makes makes a ton of sense roster wise. So again, I'm not going to knock him too hard on that trade. I think it ends up working out for the Red Sox in the long run. And overall, trade wise for the Red Sox, I think it was a fairly decent offseason. Not a ton of huge splashes, so it wasn't like A+ or anything crazy like that, but an A- seems like a pretty fair grade. They didn't absolutely hose anybody in the trade market, but they didn't lose any trades either. So in my opinion, this was a solid A- in terms of trades. Now let's talk about the guys they brought in via the free agent market. Like we were talking about with the trades, in this section we are only going to be focusing on guys who are given a major league contract. Obviously, some guys who were signed to a minor league deal could have a pretty big impact on this 2023 team, but we just simply don't know that yet. Plus, if I was going to sit here and talk about every minor league signing and major league signing the Red Sox made this offseason, we'd be here for 3 hours. So focusing on the major league signings in this video, and those guys are Joely Rodriguez, Kenley Jansen, Chris Martin, Masataka Yoshida, Justin Turner, Adam Duvall, Corey Kluber, and Yu Chang. So those are the guys who were signed to the major league contract that we know are going to have an impact on this 2023 team. And taking a look at this list, the biggest win in my opinion for the Red Sox this offseason was the way that they used the free agent market to acquire bullpen arm. Last year, the Red Sox bullpen was one of the worst in all of baseball, and the fact that they went so hard in trying to improve that going into 2023 is an absolute win in my book, right? Bringing in veteran, proven, successful relievers to this Red Sox bullpen is going to have a huge impact on 2023, specifically Kenley Jansen and Chris Martin. I think both of those guys are going to be absolutely massive for this Red Sox bullpen. Joely is a guy who struggled a bit last year in terms of on-paper statistics, but had absolutely fantastic peripherals all around. The signings that the Red Sox made in the bullpen, those 3 guys at the top of that list, Joely, Kenley, and Chris Martin, in my opinion, is an A, and could very easily be an A+ depending on how they perform during the regular season, because we just haven't seen anything yet. Moving on, Masataka Yoshida was the biggest free agent signing the Red Sox made this offseason. He got $90 million, and right now it looks like a really great deal. Projections show him being an absolutely fantastic player. Scouts and coaches who have seen him for the first time in person down in Fort Myers say that he may be even underrated when it comes to his power and his fielding, right? They talk about his hit tool and how fantastic he is there, and everything seems to be going well for this signing, but at the same time too, we don't know what he looks like over a 162 game season. I'm excited for him and I think he's going to do well. I'm optimistic about it, but I can't say that this signing was a slam dunk yet because we don't have any sort of sample size to back that up. So for right now, I'm going to give the Masataka Yoshida signing a B+. That could very easily go down to a C if he doesn't do well, or could go up to an A+ if those projections are correct. So for me, Masataka Yoshida looks fantastic, but being completely unknown, you can't give him that A range type grade for that sign. As for Justin Turner and Adam Duvall, I think they were both really solid signings. Justin Turner is a guy who's going to give you great at-bats at the plate. You could see an increase in power with the Green Monster, even though he's not a true pull hitter. He loves to sort of pepper it to right field, and that's perfect for the Monster. And off the field, Justin Turner is a great personality to have with this team, right? He's a veteran leader who spent time with one of the best organizations in baseball in the LA Dodgers. He's a guy who knows how to work a clubhouse, knows how to get guys fired up, knows how to participate within the community. He's going to be a guy that we see a lot throughout the year in 2023, and I think it's going to be in a good way. So I'm going to give that signing an A-. As for Adam Duvall adds much needed power to this Red Sox team from the right side specifically. There are some concerns with his health, make sure he's super healthy for the entire season, and there are some concerns with his offensive ability while playing center field, as that was his worst position in terms of offense last year, although it was his smallest sample size. And again, another guy who off the field is a fantastic teammate and clubhouse personality. So in my opinion, both of those guys sitting right around that A-, B+ range. I'm going to give them the A- just to be a little bit generous, but I think overall they're both very solid signings. And as for Corey Kluber, I think a lot of people don't like Corey Kluber because when he was brought in, everyone sort of assumed he was the replacement for Nate Eovaldi, but in my opinion, he was more so the replacement for Rich Hill. So if you compare him and Rich Hill's seasons last year, Corey Kluber was just a little bit better of a Rich Hill. And Corey Kluber also has a higher ceiling and did give you more games last year. So in my opinion, upgrading Rich Hill is very solid. I'm going to give this one a B, and we'll get into why I don't think this is a perfect A+ type signing at the end of this video when I talk about the mistakes by this Red Sox team. And finally, Yu Chang, who was signed to a major league contract. This one, I don't know, I'll give it a C+, right? I don't think it's a crazy good signing. I don't think it's going to shift the Red Sox momentum in their favor. I don't think it's going to make them worse. I just don't think it really moved the needle either way. So we'll give Yu Chang a C+. I really don't think he sees a ton of games this year, and really honestly would not be shocked if he's DFA'd early on in the year as well. So overall, when we're talking about what the free agent acquisitions look like for the Red Sox this year, they're mostly positive additions, right? They added in and they filled holes that the Red Sox were missing last year throughout 2022. They added in a bunch of new clubhouse figures, a bunch of guys with huge potential, and while there are still some unknowns within the Red Sox free agent class of 2023, I really like what they did, and overall I'm going to give them an A- in terms of free agent signings. And so far it looks like the Red Sox did a really great job this offseason, and while that is the case in some areas, there are definitely some areas where they messed up that we need to talk about. Let's talk about some of the blunders this offseason and how it affects my grade on the 2023 Red Sox offseason, starting with the biggest and most obvious one, right? You simply cannot say for an entire year, basically, that you want to bring back Xander Bogaerts, that you're going to do everything you can to bring back Xander Bogaerts, then absolutely blunder up the beginning offer in spring training last year, not even attempt to make an offer to him during the season last year, then take your time and let someone else swoop in and wow Xander Bogaerts in free agency, all while saying that this was your top priority, right? You simply cannot do that. It's a bad idea from a PR perspective. Not re-signing Xander is a bad idea baseball wise, right? This was by far and away the biggest blunder of the offseason, and it's one that I still have problems with today and probably will for the rest of my Red Sox fandom. So for me, this is getting a big fat F in the way they handled the Xander Bogaerts situation. Moving on here, like I talked about with Corey Kluber, adding him is great and all, and the rotation going into 2023 has a lot of upside to it, but it also has a ton of question marks within it, right? It could be really good or it could be really bad. Sale, Paxton, Bayo, Whitlock, Kluber to an extent, Pivetta are all sort of question marks going into 2023, and the Red Sox had opportunities this offseason to try and bring in somebody who was a little bit more of a surefire type pitcher within this Red Sox rotation that would have given it more stability than it does have now. Again, I'm a positive guy. I'm positive about this Red Sox team, but this rotation is going to make or break this Red Sox season, and I just feel like the Red Sox could have done a little bit more to really bolster this rotation, and for that, we're going to give them a D+. And finally, the Red Sox, for the first time in a very long time, only have one singular player on the top 100 MLB players list. That has not happened in a very long time. And while I look at this team and I say, well, yeah, obviously a lot of these guys are young and unproven. Trevor Story is injured, right? He would probably be on the top 100 list, but he's not going to be playing until what? July, August. Plus you got guys like Casas, you got guys like Bayo, Whitlock, Sale if he's healthy, Yoshida, Verdugo, Kike, who could all have really good years and end up in the top 100 list. But for now, you just simply don't have that true star power. And again, if you take a look at this offseason, the Red Sox did have the opportunity to add some star power, and they just simply did not because they wanted to stay under the luxury tax, which right now kind of makes sense based on how this team is constructed, but at the time is really, really frustrating. So because they had the opportunity to bring in some star power and they didn't, I'm going to give that a C+. And the reason for that is because, again, I think by the end of the year, you're going to have a couple of guys, 2-3 more additions to the top 100 list from the Boston Red Sox. And that's kind of it, in my opinion, for true blunders this offseason. And if we take a look at how I graded out this Red Sox team, I think overall there were more good additions to this Red Sox team than there were bad additions or subtractions. And I think overall I'm going to give this Red Sox offseason a be. Now, I think they could have had a better offseason. I think they could have had a worse offseason, and it certainly was not the offseason I was expecting. But at the end of the day, I think on paper, they look a little bit better than they did last year. Let me know in the comment section down below how badly you disagree with me, because I'm sure you do. What players would you give lower grades to? What players would you give higher grades to? What situations would you give grades to? Let me know all your thoughts on how you would grade this Red Sox offseason down below. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Do me a favor if you haven't already, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button. We talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this one as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the Red Sea.